Welcome back to another episode of the Field of 68's off-season grades. My name is Rob Dauster. I have Randolph Childress with me, and I'm going to give you guys a little tease, okay? We recorded an episode of this earlier, and Randolph said, and I quote, "I am never doubting Mark Few again." And
Never.
that's because of what they did this past season. But I want to ask you a question, okay? So before we do all that, Ryan Nemhard's back. Nolan Hickman's back. Ben Gregg is back. Graham Ike is back. Steele Venters is healthy. Dusty Schromer's back. Braden Huff is back. Michael Ajayi, a transfer from Pepperdine, who's really damn good, by the way, has joined the program. Khalif Battle, a transfer from Arkansas, who I think solves a lot of the needs that Gonzaga had last year, is back. They lost Anton Watson, which I think is a bigger loss than people are probably going to acknowledge it for. He was a stud, dude. I love that
He
guy.
was.
But here's my question, okay? We had so many doubts about Gonzaga throughout the non-conference portion of last season. They get to WCC play, they start beating up on all the WCC teams, and all of a sudden we're kind of like, yeah, I think that they're back, right? And they get to the tournament, they beat up on, I believe it was at McNeese State in the first round of the tournament, and then in the second round they beat up on a Kansas team that didn't have Kevin McCullough and that had a banged up Hunter Dickinson, right? And that already did not have any depth. And then they made it to the Sweet 16, and all of us are like, oh, they're back. They did this. So are they really back? Did they really find a way to get back to that level? Or was that just a product of their schedule watching them last season? Because the more I think about it, the more I think it was like, yeah, you know what? We underrated what this team was when they figured it out in January and February.
One, I think it's we underrated them. They struggled early, no doubt about it, but they were a victim of their own success. This was just the Gonzaga team that one I thought there was just a drop down in talent. No disrespect to anybody else, but they lost Suggs. They just lost Drew Tim. They lost just dudes, right? That you just can't replace, and it takes time to replace those kind of guys. And the talent that they lost in that program. They were as talented as anybody, getting 5-star guys and everything that went on in the national, to making runs to the Natty. Um, I thought it turned around when they beat Kentucky. Right, I thought during the year by the time when they won against Kentucky, it was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, they're starting to figure this out, and they did. And I know you can say that you can't nitpick and say who they play, who they didn't play. I just like the team. I think this team is versatile as hell. I think they have depth and versatility, unlike a lot of teams in college basketball. And they're returning 4 or 5 starters. Man, I think they'll play the same tough preseason schedule as they always do. But I think now this year's team, you'll start to see them. I don't know their schedule, but where they struggled mightily a year ago, I expect to see them in the early, MTEs or wherever they're playing to make it to like the championship game or possibly win one of those tournaments to kind of let you know, like, all right, we're here and we're back. They're not as NBA top heavy as they've been in years past, but they're pretty damn good. And I think they're versatile. Getting Battle in there, I think is big. I think getting him is, his ability to get downhill, bringing some size to that backcourt, putting pressure on the rim. I think they're just going to be. You talked about Michael Jai, the Pepperdine transfers is the real deal. Let's. But his ability to go, will he play four? Play some small ball four for him. They're so good. I think Greg, where's Ben Greg go? He'll play some maybe backup five for him as well. I mean, he has a lot of different pieces. But the biggest thing I think that they've added is just adding scoring from the wing. I think adds to this team. We know what they have inside. Nimhard running the show. I think they'll be there. This team has a chance to be there when it's all said and done.
They're as old as anybody in college basketball. Nemhard's a senior, Hickman's a
Yep.
senior, Zai's a senior, Ben Gregg's a senior, Graham Ike is like a 27th year senior. He's got to be 50 years old by now. Khalif Battle's a 5th year senior. Steele Venters is a junior, but
Yeah.
he redshirted last year, like he's a
Yeah.
senior by grade. Braden Huff is a redshirt sophomore, so he's technically an upperclassman. Like they are going to play one guy that has had less than 2 years in college in their rotation. He's probably like their 8th or 9th man in Dusty Schromer. They are old. They are good. They shoot the hell out of it.
Yep.
But I don't want to spend too much time talking about Ryan Nembhard and Nolan Hickman because I think by the end of the year, those guys proved how good they are. Like we know
We
what
know.
they are. Yeah,
We
we know
know.
how good they are. Graham Ike is like he's really what you want out of a Mark Few five man. Like he can run the floor, he's gonna seal, he's gonna get the post touches, he's gonna score on those duck ins. Like he kind of does what he does, right? I thought it was really interesting at the end of the year the emphasis they made on playing two bigs together and the success that they had doing that. And I think that's going to continue. But there's three things that I think really stand out about this. You mentioned two of them. One of them, Khalif Battle. Like that dude is exactly what they were missing last year in terms of someone where, like, if all else fails, give him the ball, get the hell out of the way, and just let him go get a bucket, right? Go get us one, right? That's what Khalif Battle can do. No one else on this roster can do it. Two, um, Michael Ajayi coming in and being like that stretch four. I think that as much as I loved Anton Watson, I think Ajayi can do a lot of those same things. He's probably, correct me if you think I'm wrong, I think Watson was more of like a four that could play the three, whereas Ajayi is a three that could play the four, if that makes sense. But I do think we'll see lineups where he's at the four. And Steel Venter's getting healthy because he's another guy, 6'7", can shoot that thing, has experience in the league. No, I'm sorry. He was at Eastern Washington.
Eastern Washington.
Yeah. What am I talking? But he was a guy that that was a player of the year in his conference. So like they addressed the issues that they had last season and they addressed them very well. And I'm looking at this team. It's very hard for me not to have them be like a preseason top five team because of the way that they could shoot it, because of their veterans, because of the guard play, because of the addition of Battle, because of what Ajayi can bring. Like Mark Few did it again, man. Like this is a really, really damn good team.
They got to be top five because I think they hit for what they needed. They didn't need a lot. They're returning 4 or 5 starts, but getting a giant battle, it's like the perfect mix because it provides so much versatility now. I mean, you talked about having Ben Gregg, who we talked about his ability to come in the lineup, and he changed things when he started starting and bringing it. And we're talking about size. So now you're able to have that rotation to go, hey, do we need to go small? Then I can put a Ajayi at the 4, and, even Greg playing some 5, Battle in it. It's my third guard. I mean, there's just so much versatility in the way they need to play. I think that's the only thing that Mark Few is going to have to figure out. And I thought he went through that last year with their group early on, trying to figure out how we needed to play. Then I thought they went with the bigger lineup. This year, they may start the year out that way, but I think he feels more comfortable and with the pieces he's added to make sure if we need to go small, we can go small and be equally as effective. So I thought they crushed it with the fit with those two guys coming in, and I don't think there's any question that they're a top 5 team. I don't think there's 5 teams when you factor in their level of experience with this group. I don't bet 5 teams better than Gonzaga is standing here today. We can hope. I'm more certain about this team than I am with some of the other teams that we would argue about being in the top 5.
So there's one question that I would have about this, and this is mostly me playing devil's advocate, right?
Yeah.
But when you look at teams that make runs to Final Fours and that win national championships in recent years, like 2 or 3 NBA guys. Sometimes it's 2-way guys, sometimes it's second round picks, sometimes it's like UConn with 2 lottery picks and 2 second round picks. Is there enough NBA talent on this roster to be able to win at that level, or does it not matter for you?
It doesn't matter because I think when the NBA talent, when it's with certain situations, it makes the difference, right? Like you put in at UConn, you just like Mark Few, you give Mark Few NBA guys, he's going to the national championship. There's certain coaches that are just they're as good as it gets, and Mark Few's one of them. And this team may not have NBA guys, but if you don't have the 5-star NBA guy, what do you want? You want experienced guys that have been through school. And that's what this is: senior. They know what they have. They're battle tested. They have depth. They have shooting. They have inside scoring. They got size. If they don't have the NBA guy, what they had in the past, but they got everything else you'd want beside that. And if you don't have that, you want some experience out of that freshman or that young NBA prospect. So Again, I told you this before. I ain't doubting. There's two guys I ain't doubting. I just said that about Tony Bennett. I'm sure as hell. I told him to his face. I ain't gonna back down now. Hey, I'm high on Mark Few and I'm high on the Gonzaga Bulldogs.
All right, so here's my X factor for this team. I think it's Khalif Battle because if this roster kind of goes the way that I would expect it to go, it's that you have Nemhard and Hickman starting in the backcourt. You have Ben Gregg and Graham Ike starting in the front court, and you probably have Michael Ajayi, maybe Steel Venters. But my guess is it's Ajayi starting at the three, right? Um, which means Battle's going to be a guy coming off the bench. And he's coming off of a season where he played at Arkansas. He averaged 15 points a game. He started as a bench guy and ended up moving his way into the starting lineup. Like there's when you're transferring as that level of guy, there's a level of expectation that you have going to this new program. Like, okay, I'm getting paid X amount of dollars. I'm coming in here. I'm going to be the guy. I'm going to start. I'm going to get this many shots. I'm going to play this many minutes. And as long as Battle can kind of embrace being that like instant offense guy and playing a role for this team, I think that the Gonzaga has very real Final Four national title upside. But if Battle, I think it might be and pardon the pun, battle to get him to buy into that role. That's the one thing that I'm kind of concerned about here is like just the role buying. And that's with a lot of teams that have talent and have a lot of depth. But that to me is the most important thing for this roster and this team this season.
It doesn't bother me as much because whether he starts or not, it doesn't matter. Um, each year, I think it takes an identity on its own because we'll have to see what happens with this lineup. Like last year, things changed when Greg went in the starting lineup. I think, does he come off the bench this year? Is the lineup better with Battle in it, and then Ajayi slides to the four, and then Greg come off the bench? That's what I mean. The upside and how talented this team is and the versatility that it is. I'm not worried about Battle because he may not start the game, but he sure as hell is going to be there when it matters and close games for them. Like that's all that matters. When the game's on the line and it matters, he's going to be out there playing for Mark Few. So the other stuff is just the versatility, who starts. I think it's just about the combination of guys and how they feel. It wouldn't shock me if they changed their starting lineup throughout the year, not because there were uncertainty, just for better matchups with teams. They may decide to stay with the two bigs and go that route. But again, you're coming in with so much flexibility, roster size. They're more athletic a little bit than they've been in years past. And they got to do, like you said, they can get a ball to him Battle late game and say, man, beat your guy and go make a play.
Yep. Is that your X factor? Battle? What would your X factor be?
Yeah, I think it's Battle, and I would lean to Greg as well. I think Ben Greg. I mean, how does that? With him, I mean, things changed a lot last year. He plays so hard. I mean, what he brings, he's able to stretch as well. I would like to see his numbers may not improve, but he and Battle, I think, are the two guys I think that can add something more to this team that we already know. And I think it's Battle, but I'm high on Ben Greg as well.
All right, so I think they're an obvious top 10 team. I would probably have them. I want to say fifth, somewhere in that like 5 to 7 range. I think is probably right. I think it's UConn, Kansas, and Alabama in some order, the top three, and then it's like Gonzaga's in the mix with the Baylors and the Iowa States and the Houstons and the teams of that level, right? Like I don't think there's a lot of separation between them and that girl. I'd probably throw Duke in there as well. So you could have them anywhere between 4 and 8, and I probably wouldn't complain. My guess is that they're like a 2 seed heading into the tournament, which is like a Final Four caliber team, and it might be a national title caliber team. Do you think like can they win? Is there enough firepower here for you that Gonzaga can be a I know that's it's a lot to ask in August, but like, is there enough there for you for national?
It's enough. I think it's on the defensive end of the floor for this group. They're going to be able to score points. That isn't the question. Like, how do they? And that's why I say the matchup this year with that bigger lineup. I think now the ability to go smaller allows them to match up with other teams and then the depth. That's why I think, and the experience. This team, it doesn't have as much of an overhaul as some of these other teams that you've already named. I mean, 4 of their 5 guys are starting. We're sitting here saying whether Battle starts or not, it doesn't matter. Whether Greg starts or not, it doesn't matter. These are really good players. So I think their level of experience over some of these other teams, again, they're going to be there in the end. The key to them, though, is they're experienced enough to get out to. We're going to judge this team by what they do in November, in December, right? Unlike some of these other teams, because I think they're gonna blow away the conference again. I think this will look like years and years past. I think they'll run away with the league. Um, Not to put too much pressure on them, but I do think they'll have more success this year in November and December. And I think that's why, and I think that puts them in a running. They'll be no less than a 2 seed, and it wouldn't shock me in the end that they're fighting for a 1 seed, or they have
Yeah.
a 1 seed.
Yeah, I'm with you there, man. Like I just the more I look at this roster, the more I love it. The more I look at this team, the more I love it. And as you know, Randolph, I am a UConn fan. But if there's one guy, one team, one program that I want to see win a national title this year, like I would love to see Matt Painter do it. I don't think that he's got the guys to be able to win a national title this year. I want to see Mark Few get it. Like I want to see Mark Few get his flowers. Uh I'm so over the argument. There was a lot of it last year of like Gonzaga's overrated. They can't win the big one because Mark Few's only gotten to two national titles in the last 6 years. Two national title games in the last 6 years. He's only made it to the last nine Sweet 16s. He's only built some small little private school in the middle of nowhere in Spokane, Washington, into an absolute juggernaut. Like I want this guy to be able to get it so that people will just shut the hell up about what he is as a coach and what this program is. So that's kind of where I stand. I'll be rooting for you Gonzaga fans.
No, we should. He's one of the best. He's an all time great. And again, his level of consistency, what he's done at that program. I mean, God, in building that program to what it is, it just doesn't happen. And you take it for granted. You want to be critical of it because everybody wants it right now. But he's built that program and one of the best in the country. And I wouldn't disagree with you. I wouldn't be disappointed if he wins. I think he and a guy like Samson down in Houston are two guys I just personally cheer for that I'd want them
Tell them to.
to win. Yeah, to win a national championship. But this team will be really, really good. I think this team will have more to say about it when it's all said and done. I think they'll be, like I said, they'll be better in November, December, and that'll put the nation on notice. And then I think they'll run to the WCC.
Yeah. Did I adequately kiss Mark Few's ass to be able to get an invite onto one of his fly fishing trips, or do you think I need to
Well,
go?
I did. I said I'll never doubt him. I told him to his face. So hell yeah, I plan on going on a fishing trip. I'll see if I can get you out there though.
I want to see. I would love to see you put on some waders, Randolph, go get in the middle of a river and start using that fly fishing rod.
I
Can you
would. I
do it?
love the fish, man. I love the fish.
All right, let's go. I'm in. We need a
All
field of 68 fly fishing trip. We got to make this one happen. Listen, Randolph, it's always a pleasure, man. Gonzaga fans, we'll be pulling for you this season. Make sure to check out the Field of 68 YouTube channel. We have 45 of these off-season grades in the queue. See you guys next episode.